Don't test me, sir. I said show me your hands.
They're right here. No sudden moves. You need to breathe.
Don't tell me how to do my job. One wrong move
and you'll regret it. I'm Chief Harold Benson, your chief.
What did you say?
You just pointed a weapon at your own boss.
It was a quiet night when Officer Jake Miller made the biggest mistake of his career. He stopped a black luxury car because of a broken tail light. He walked up to the driver's window, shining his flashlight on the dark glass. Within 8 minutes, Jake had his taser pressed against the ribs of the man inside the car. The electric current went through the body of a 52-year-old man wearing a business suit. The man fell forward against his steering wheel, his muscles jerking from the shock. What Jake didn't know was that he had just tased his own boss, Chief Harold Benson, the head of the whole police department. And that one action ended Jake's career forever. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If you like this story, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us share more stories like this. Now, let's go back to that night. Jake Miller had been a police officer for only 3 years. He worked night shifts in the eastern part of the city, a quiet area where most traffic stops were simple. He was 28 years old and eager to prove himself. But Jake had one big problem. He didn't think before he acted. His training officers had written about it in their reports. Officer Miller needs to think more before making decisions. Officer Miller sometimes makes situations worse instead of better. Even with these warnings, Jake kept his badge and stayed on the job. Chief Harold Benson was very different. He had worked in law enforcement for 30 years. He started as a street officer walking dangerous neighborhoods. Over time, he became a detective, then a sergeant, then a captain. 5 years ago, he was made chief of police, the first black police chief in the city's history. People respected him. The community trusted him. His officers liked working under him. He was known for being fair, calm, and very smart about handling both crime and people. On that Tuesday night, Chief Benson was driving home from a long city council meeting. He had spent hours talking about the police budget, asking for better training and new equipment. He was tired. His jacket was in the back seat, his tie loose. All he wanted was to get home to his wife and catch the last part of the basketball game on TV. He knew his taillight had been flickering for a few days, but he hadn't had time to fix it yet. It was one of those small things people forget when they're busy. Officer Jake Miller saw the broken tail light from 2 blocks away. He was sitting in his patrol car at a gas station when the luxury sedan passed by. Something in his head clicked. A fancy car, a broken tail light, late at night. It looked suspicious. Maybe the car was stolen. Maybe the driver was drunk. Maybe he would find drugs. Jake thought this could be his big chance to make a serious arrest. He pulled out of the gas station and turned on his flashing lights. Chief Benson saw the police lights in his mirror. He didn't get angry. He had been a cop for years and understood how traffic stops worked. He actually felt a little embarrassed that one of his own officers had to stop him for a broken tail light. He pulled over, parked, and placed both hands on the steering wheel like every citizen should. Jake walked up to the car with his flashlight in one hand and his other hand on his gun. That was already his first mistake. This situation didn't need that level of caution. But Jake always imagined the worst. He tapped the window with his flashlight. Chief Benson rolled it down and looked up calmly. The chief didn't say who he was right away. Some people might wonder why, but his reason was simple. He believed he shouldn't get special treatment just because of his position. If he had a broken light, he should get a ticket like anyone else. He thought it would be a good example for other officers to follow the law too. Jake pointed his flashlight directly into the chief's face. Another mistake. You don't blind someone unless there's a reason. The chief squinted but stayed calm. Jake asked for his license and registration. The chief said he was reaching for them in the glove box. He moved slowly and carefully, exactly how people are told to move during a traffic stop. But Jake thought he saw something else. As the chief reached for his papers, his suit jacket moved, and Jake saw something black at his waist. It was just a phone in a holster, but Jake's brain told him it was a gun. Panic took over. He jumped back and started yelling. "Hands up," he shouted. "Get out of the car." His voice was shaky and loud. Typed "Stay calm" in the comments if you think Jake should have stopped and taken a breath before reacting. Chief Benson immediately knew this was getting out of control. He had seen new officers panic before. He spoke softly and clearly. He told Jake he was following orders. He told him there was no weapon. He told him everything was fine. But Jake wasn't listening. Fear had taken over. The chief got out of the car with his hands raised. He was tall and strong, around 6 feet 2 inches, and still fit for his age. To Jake, he looked like a big man coming out of an expensive car late at night, and all the wrong thoughts filled his head. The chief tried to explain. "I'm a police officer," he said. "I'm the chief of police. My badge is in my jacket pocket. Please check it." Jake thought he was lying. In his mind, people lie all the time during stops. Someone claiming to be the police chief sounded fake to him. "Turn around," Jake ordered. "Hands on the car." Chief Benson followed the command. Even though he was the boss, he was still a citizen at that moment. Jake took out his handcuffs. The chief told him again, "This is a misunderstanding. Please check my ID." His voice stayed calm even though he felt uneasy. He had seen this kind of situation before. Young officers making bad decisions when afraid. Then the chief turned his head slightly to make eye contact, trying to calm Jake down. But Jake saw it as a threat. He already had his taser ready. He had been wanting to use it for a long time. Without warning, he fired. The taser prongs hit Chief Benson in the side. Electricity went through his body, locking his muscles. He fell against the car, then dropped to the ground. His face hit the pavement. The shock lasted only 5 seconds, but it felt like forever. When it stopped, the chief lay on the ground, shaking and disoriented. Jake rushed over, pressed his knee on the chief's back, and handcuffed him. His heart was racing. He thought he had just taken down a dangerous criminal. He called for backup and an ambulance. He followed all the steps for after using force, except the one that mattered most: knowing when force is actually needed. Within minutes, 2 more patrol cars arrived. Officer Maria Lopez, a veteran with 15 years on the job, was the first out. She saw the man on the ground, handcuffed and hurt. Her face went pale. She knew that man. It was Chief Harold Benson. She had been in meetings with him and had received an award from him just months ago. She looked at Jake and said, "Do you know who that is?" Jake, still full of adrenaline, said, "A suspect." He resisted. "He might have a weapon." "Look at his face," Maria said. Jake bent down and shined his flashlight on the man's face. The truth hit him hard. His stomach dropped. His hands shook. He realized he had just tased his own boss. An ambulance arrived. The paramedics checked the chief. He had bruises, burns, and cuts from the fall, but he was alive. The biggest wound wasn't physical. It was the humiliation. He had followed every command and still been treated like a criminal. Do you think Jake deserves a second chance? Keep watching to find out what happened next. News spread fast. Within an hour, everyone in the department knew. Officer Tase's chief during traffic stop. It sounded like a joke, but it was true. The body camera footage showed everything. Internal Affairs started an investigation immediately. They watched the video. They interviewed Jake, the chief, and the other officers. The video was clear. The chief never resisted, never acted threatening, and stayed calm the entire time. Jake's decision to use his taser had no justification. While the investigation went on, Jake was suspended and had to turn in his badge and gun. For 2 weeks, he stayed at home, watching his life crumble. The story went viral. Local news covered it. Then national news picked it up. Some said, if the chief of police can be treated like this, imagine what happens to regular people. Others said, this shows the whole system is broken. Some said Jake should go to jail. Others said it was just a mistake. Chief Benson gave one press conference. He said he was okay and didn't want this to define the department. He said he trusted the process and hoped everyone would learn from it. He didn't attack Jake publicly. He stayed calm and professional. But privately, he was angry, not only at Jake, but at the system that had failed to train him properly. Jake's record had warnings. His supervisors had written that he made poor choices. Yet, he was still allowed to patrol with a weapon. The chief decided this would be the moment for real change. The investigation ended after 2 weeks. The results were obvious. Jake had used too much force, failed to assess the situation, and ignored clear communication. The report recommended immediate termination. The police union tried to defend Jake. They said he made a mistake in a tense moment. They said he followed his training, but even the union lawyers knew they couldn't fight the evidence. 3 weeks later, Jake Miller was fired. The letter said he had broken department policy and shown poor judgment unfit for duty. His appeal was denied. His career as a police officer was over. But the story didn't stop there. Chief Benson turned that painful event into an opportunity. He started new training programs about calm decision-making. He built an early warning system to identify officers with aggressive behavior before they caused harm. He required all supervisors to take more training on how to evaluate new officers. He made one thing clear: officers who couldn't control their fear and emotions had no place on his force. The community's reactions were mixed. Some praised the chief for handling it well. Others said one firing wasn't enough. Some said the chief should have identified himself right away, and this would never have happened. Everyone had an opinion. Jake's life got harder. No police department wanted to hire him. Everyone knew his name. He eventually moved to another state and took a job as a security guard. He gave one interview saying he regretted everything. That fear and poor training had led to his mistake. Some people forgave him. Most did not. Chief Benson served 3 more years before retiring. During those years, the number of force incidents in his department dropped a lot. His new training programs became models for other cities. He even wrote a book on police reform that became required reading in several academies. He turned one of the worst nights of his life into something good. Officer Maria Lopez, who had arrived second that night, later became a captain. She told that story often during training sessions. She said it showed how quickly fear could turn a simple situation into a disaster. If you're still watching, thank you for staying with us. Are you glad you did? The broken tail light that started it all was fixed the next day. The bill was $47.83. Chief Benson kept the receipt, framed it, and hung it in his office with a sign underneath: small problems don't need big reactions. That one night changed everything. Not just for Jake or the chief, but for the whole city. The investigation into what happened between Officer Jake Miller and Chief Harold Benson became one of the most talked about cases in the city's history. Everyone had an opinion, and the story spread far beyond the police department. The media called it "The Night the Cop Tased His Own Chief." It sounded almost like a movie title, but it was real life. TV shows, newspapers, and radio stations all covered it. People online made memes and jokes, while others used it as proof that police training needed to change. The police department had no choice but to respond quickly. Internal Affairs worked around the clock to review every second of the body camera footage. They interviewed all the officers involved, checked past reports about Jake's performance, and studied the department's training methods. The video showed everything clearly. Chief Benson had done everything right. Both hands visible, calm voice, slow movements. There was no aggression, no resistance. Jake, on the other hand, was visibly nervous, shouting commands one after another, not waiting for responses. When the taser was fired, the camera caught the chief falling forward, his face hitting the ground, the sound of his body hitting the pavement echoing through the audio. It was painful to watch. Even officers who had worked with Jake before couldn't believe what they were seeing. The public wanted answers. Some community leaders called for criminal charges against Jake. Others said it should be handled internally. Protests were held outside the police station for 3 days, demanding justice and better police training. Chief Benson stayed silent during those first few days. He didn't want to speak until he had processed what happened. Privately, though, he was deeply hurt. He wasn't just tased. He was treated like a criminal by someone he had sworn to guide and protect. In his 30 years of service, he had dealt with angry suspects, violent crimes, and dangerous operations. But he had never experienced fear from one of his own officers. He met with the mayor and other city officials behind closed doors. They all knew the story had to be handled carefully. Firing Jake was one thing, but fixing the deeper issues would take more than that. When the press conference finally happened, the whole city watched. Chief Benson stood at the podium, his face still showing a faint bruise. He looked calm, collected, and serious. "I want to say first," he began, "that I am fine. I was lucky that the incident did not cause serious injury. I also want to make it clear that this department takes accountability seriously, even when it involves its own leader." He paused, looking out at the cameras. "This is not just about one officer. It's about training, judgment, and the way we prepare our men and women to make split-second decisions. I don't want this to destroy a man's life, but I do want it to change how we train and how we think." It was short, simple, and powerful. The chief didn't attack Jake publicly. He didn't use anger or emotion. But his message was clear. This was bigger than just one mistake. After the conference, people's opinions softened slightly. Some respected the chief even more for his calmness. Others still wanted stronger punishment. The story stayed in the headlines for weeks. Meanwhile, Jake Miller sat at home, watching it all unfold on TV. His phone had stopped ringing. His friends at the department wouldn't answer his messages. His neighbors whispered about him. He knew the video was everywhere. His mistake, replayed again and again. He hadn't meant to hurt anyone. He truly believed at that moment that he was in danger. But the body cam didn't lie. His fear had turned into panic, and his panic had turned into violence. He wrote a letter of apology to Chief Benson, but never sent it. He didn't know how to put his feelings into words. How do you say sorry for something like that? When the official report came back, it confirmed what everyone already knew. Jake had broken multiple department rules: improper use of force, poor judgment, and failure to follow communication protocol. The recommendation: termination. The police union tried to fight for him. He made a mistake, they said. He needs retraining, not firing. But the footage was too clear. The chief didn't push for criminal charges, but he agreed that Jake could no longer serve as an officer. 3 weeks after the incident, Jake was called into headquarters. He sat in a small office with a deputy chief and a representative from Human Resources. They handed him the termination letter. He read the words slowly, his chest tightening. "You are hereby dismissed from your duties as a police officer due to violations of departmental policy and demonstrated poor judgment." He took off his badge and laid it on the desk. For a long moment, he just stared at it. That badge had meant everything to him. He had dreamed of being a cop since he was a kid, but now it represented failure, one he couldn't undo. Outside the building, reporters were waiting. Jake didn't say a word. He walked to his car and drove away, leaving behind the job that had defined his life. The department made the announcement later that day. Chief Benson also released a statement. Officer Miller has been terminated following a complete and fair investigation. This decision was not made lightly. It is our duty to hold ourselves to the same standards we expect from the public. People online reacted instantly. Some said justice had been served. Others said it wasn't enough. But deep down, most people knew Jake's career was over. In the weeks that followed, Chief Benson didn't let the matter fade away. He started working on reforms right away. He met with police trainers, psychologists, and community leaders to design a new program focused on decision-making and emotional control. He also introduced an early warning system. Every officer would be monitored for patterns of risky behavior, too many aggressive stops, too many complaints, or signs of poor judgment. Supervisors would step in before those officers could cause serious harm. Prevention, the chief said in one meeting, is better than apology. He also required extra training for every supervisor. They had to learn how to recognize stress, fear, and overreaction in their officers. A good leader, he said, doesn't just give orders. A good leader protects his team from their own worst impulses. The new rules didn't fix everything overnight, but they made a big difference. The department slowly changed. Officers started approaching situations with more patience. Complaints about excessive force dropped. In one interview a few months later, a reporter asked the chief if he had forgiven Jake. The chief smiled sadly. "Forgiveness is not the issue," he said. "Accountability is. I don't hate him. But what he did was wrong, and the video showed it clearly. We both learned something that night." Jake tried to find work again, but no other police department would hire him. The story followed him everywhere. Every Google search brought up officer who tased his police chief. Eventually, he moved to another state and took a job as a night security guard at a warehouse. In a small interview a year later, Jake said, "I wish I could take it back. I was scared, but I should have stopped and thought. Fear and poor training ruined my career. The system failed me, but I also failed myself." His words were honest, but for many, they came too late. Chief Benson continued to serve for 3 more years. During that time, he turned his department into a model for others. Other cities began to copy his reforms. He was invited to speak at conferences about police training and community trust. When he finally retired, the mayor thanked him for his service and called him a leader who turned pain into progress. The night that had almost destroyed his dignity ended up making him stronger. Officer Maria Lopez, the one who arrived right after the tasing, became a captain 2 years later.